Listeners out there, I know there's tons of you that are listening right now that have gone through from the startup phase into a phase of starting to build out your fleets and starting to build out your equipment. And if you're constantly looking at other people, comparing where you are to where they are and thinking that's a good thing, welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a seven-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. Welcome back, everybody. This week, I'm going to jump into a subject that I think is going to hit a lot of you guys in the heart. I remember back when I first got started in this business, and I would drive around, and like in this old truck was an old gray F-250 Ford truck, and I had that in a wheelbarrow and some shovels and basic equipment. Eventually saved up enough money to go buy a trailer and then a small tractor and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, putting all these pieces together, building this company out. And I know that I would look at other companies around. I started becoming more aware of other companies in my market, and they'd have fancy brand new F450s and 550s with their names all over it. And they had all this equipment all colored and lettered and just gorgeous. And I would sit there and look at my little truck and be like, man, what the heck? Like, I'm trying my hardest here. I'm doing my best. I've got the kind of equipment that I can afford. And then I see these other guys and I'm like, man, if I could just get that kind of equipment, maybe my customers would respect me more. Maybe I would get those bigger jobs if I had all that big equipment. Maybe if all my stuff looked new and it looked really nice, that I could really make a bigger impact and be able to sell projects much easier because of all of that iron moving down the road. Man, I was constantly comparing myself to other businesses that were in my same industry and thinking, man, what do they know that I don't know? And why are they constantly not as good as they look? Or maybe it's their job site signs that I liked better, or maybe it was their website. There was always this constant comparison. Like if that's success, then where am I? What's the gap between where I am right now and the success that looks like that it appears that they're experiencing? Why isn't that my story? And what I found through the years is this idea of comparison. You know, oftentimes if you're looking, and when I was younger and I was looking at that comparison, I was measuring or comparing my whatever year 1, 2, or 3 with their year 10, 12, or 15, maybe even 20. And in the mind, you really don't know much difference between it. You just see two different companies. But when you take the time factor out and you just start comparing, the next thing you know, you start feeling less and less about what you're doing. You start focusing more about what it looks like than what you're actually doing for your customers, what kind of value you're actually bringing to the table for your customers. Because you know what? That company that has all those beautiful trucks and everything lettered perfectly and all shiny and new, it doesn't mean that they necessarily provide a great service to the customer. Sometimes it's all about the equipment than it's more about smoke and mirrors where they have all this fancy equipment. I'm not saying that every time. I'm saying what often it is. And I didn't know that. I thought, a bigger equipment, more equipment meant a better, more effective way to sell and to build projects. And so over time, I got rid of that truck and started buying newer equipment, going into heavy debt for excavators and skid steers and trailers and trucks, and then another truck. And then we went into grain bodies. We were using those for a while. And then into a Kenworth and like all these bigger, and just become more and more because I wanted to see nice iron sitting around the yard. I wanted to be like, yeah, they're all white trucks, black bodies. They're all lettered up exactly the same. The trailers have nice graphics on the sides and the names are all the same. Like everything was immaculate. And the crazy part is, yeah, the company did grow. We did have more opportunities, but then I would just find myself looking to other companies and comparing to them too. As you level up, you're moving your goalposts further out. You start looking at that and you say, okay, well, now I have all this equipment, but I don't have as much equipment as that other new company that just opened up, or that old company that just re-equipped their entire fleet. Or all of a sudden you start looking at other companies that were way outside of your realm and starting to compare there. And I found this to be crazy, crazy thing. And the more you grew, the more you start looking around because your awareness starts to broaden more and more and more. That's at least what I noticed. And I start seeing companies when I travel around the country, around the world. I start seeing other companies, and I'm like, I don't understand it. The more that I build, the bigger that we get. It seems like there's just a bigger deficit or a bigger pit in the fact that I don't feel like I'm getting closer to success. Like the goalposts constantly keep moving. I'll be happy when I'm bigger than that company. Well, what does that even mean and why? Why is that so important? So what I want to land on you guys today is this idea that the truth that comparison is the thief of joy. When you're running around comparing yourself to others, whether it's in their education, whether they're landscape architects and you're not, or they're designers and you build or whatever, and you start comparing yourself, that it takes joy out of your bucket. Constantly thinking, you know what, I'm not as good as, or comparing myself to other people around me, or my trucks aren't as many or as colorful or as shiny or as whatever it might be. Once we start comparing ourselves to other people, we start to rob ourselves of the joy of what we've accomplished so far. The listeners out there, I know there's tons of you that are listening right now that have gone through from the startup phase into a phase of starting to build out your fleets and starting to build out your equipment. And if you're constantly looking at other people, comparing where you are to where they are and thinking that's a good thing, what's going to happen inside of your heart is you're going to start to feel this emptiness, this I need more, because when I have more, I'll be more. And the crazy part is that's not how God wired us. He wired us in a way that we have to become more so that we can serve more. And if we focus on that and get rid of the material things around us, we start to become more joyful in the moment. And no matter what the competitors do, no matter what they buy or don't buy, sell, or whatever it might be, they can't rob you of the joy you have to go out and serve each and every day. And I say this because, it's a human nature to look what others have. Maybe it's how much money they have or their house or families or whatever it might be, and compare yourself to them. But when you do that, listeners, think deeply. When you do that, when you compare yourself to others, how does that make you feel? How does that make you feel when you look at somebody else and you're thinking, wow, I'm so much more rich than they are, or my house is bigger than theirs is? Maybe for a moment you feel good, but deep down it doesn't last very long. And think about when you're looking up to somebody else and you're comparing your week or your year number 3 to their year number 30, thinking, man, there's no way I'm going to get to there. Look at all the stuff they have. I'm nobody. I'm not enough. Think about that. What does that do to your soul? Does that encourage you? Does that build your confidence so you can go out there and take on the world by serving? Or does it tear you down? Does it make you feel less and less and less and less each time you compare yourself to somebody who looks like from the outside that is doing better than you? Comparison is the thief of joy. So that's good that we know that. Thanks, Joshua, for letting us know that now. But what do we do with it? Well, you have a lot of things you can do with it. One is to do nothing and just continue to compare yourself to others out there and to constantly kick yourself in the ass saying, I'm not good enough. They're better than me. They've got more money. They've got a rich sugar daddy that keeps giving them all the money to build their company out. I remember when I was younger, I'd see companies where their dad, there was a young guy running it and the dad would put money into it. And I'd look at it and I'd be like, man, I just wish my family had a lot of money so I could just go out and buy that brand new truck and those brand new trailers. And I just wish my dad had all kinds of connections like theirs did so that I had it a little bit easier. The crazy part was I look back at it now, almost 30 years in this industry, and I wouldn't want that at all. Now I'm glad I had to go through those tougher times. I'm glad I had to question those things. I'm glad I had to work for every damn dollar we've ever made. And I'm glad I can say that and know that, because you know what? There's something that's built in those times of your life when you feel like there's no good things coming, or you're just struggling, or you're constantly feel like it's not fair. There's something that happens, a growing, a knowing that happens inside of you that helps fortify you in the crucible of life, so that when things get really tough, economies change, people quit, equipment breaks down, whatever, health problems, all of a sudden you become stronger because you had to move through that really hard time in your life. So listeners out there, if you find yourself constantly comparing yourself to others, the first step in any of this is to be aware of it. Once you start feeling that comparison coming on, be aware of it and then reposition that comparison and say, okay, well, you know what? That's true. Maybe they do have nicer equipment or bigger jobs, the ones that I really want. But I wonder how hard I had to work to make that happen. I wonder how long they've been at it in order to make that happen. I wonder what their secret sauce is. Maybe instead of judging them, we could try to learn from them and understand, okay, if that works in this environment and it works in our market, how could we possibly take some cues from that and be able to help ourselves with it as well? So using it as a challenge and as a leverage for you to grow and not just to compare and judge. And I say that because as humans, we like to judge. And it's very important for us to know when that's happening. So if comparison is a thief of joy, let's stop comparing. Only compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Yeah, I'm going to say that again. The only good comparison out there is to think, where was I yesterday and did I grow to today? If the answer is yes, you're going in the right direction. If the answer is nope, I'm exactly like I was yesterday, exactly like I've been for the last 10 years, well, then we've got some work to do. Or you're stuck in a fixed mindset, and that fixed mindset is not going to get you to the goals and successes that you deep down want in your heart. You have to have a growth mindset, a how can I versus why should I mindset. So if you keep thinking I got to go each day and just grow just a little bit, 2 millimeters each day, grow my business, grow my impact, grow my efficiencies, grow my systems, grow all of those things in my business, you will over time have an accumulation of all those things. And you'll be able to look back and be like, wow, I remember my year 3. Now I'm at year 10. And, you know, I remember being that company looking up to others. And now others are looking up to me. And now instead of looking down at them, how do I help them up? How do I reach out a hand and help them grow too? Because as they always say, a rising tide rises all boats. And that's what it really is all about, is helping each other grow. So guys, if you find yourself comparing yourself, remember, that's the thief of joy. And if you want more joy, love, peace, and fulfillment in business ownership and in life, it's a matter of being aware that it's happening, that your mind is doing this, and then to rewire that to only compare yourself with who you were yesterday. And are you growing? Did you grow today? Everyone, thank you for listening. And I hope it lands at least on one person out there that can change that cycle, that pattern of comparison, and turn that constant pattern that'll only take you down into something that absolutely lifts you up to the top of the mountains. So guys, till next week.